righty, welcome back to the Thom Hartmann program. Dr. Mike Newcomb sitting in for this, the last final day after a 7-day stint on the air. We appreciate the opportunity to be part of the Thom Hartmann program, but it is Anything Goes Friday, so a great way, Eric, to close out the festivities on this great program here.
I agree with you, Mike. I concur.
You can cue. Looks like we got Mark Taylor-Canfield. He is a reporter, and he wants to talk about something that's happening with respect to the Seattle police chief. So let's hear what he has to say. Welcome, Mark.
Hey, Mike, it's good to talk to you again. I think I've actually talked to you down there at KPHX, too.
Yes, you did. I remember your name, so.
Yeah, we've got a story that I've been covering for Free Speech Radio News on the Pacifica Network, and I called in last week to tell you, the Tom's listeners, about the federal grand jury in Seattle where activists had been placed in solitary confinement. And last week I reported that Judge Richard Jones had released 2 of those activists, not only from solitary confinement, but from jail, saying that the grand jury holding them as material witnesses when they're claiming that they don't really have any information on what happened here on May Day last year when a federal appeals court had its windows broken. He said that, that was ridiculous and it was a degradation to their physical and mental health to hold them in solitary confinement. So they've been released. And as of this week, the last person who is being held, Maddie Pfeiffer, who's actually been in jail since last August during this investigation of the May Day actions last year, he's been released as well. So at this
was he in solitary confinement that whole time?
Not the entire time, but most of the time, which means that he was in there for months and months and months, along with Catherine Oljanik and Maddie Pfeiffer. So Matthew Duran was actually released with Catherine. This week, Maddie Pfeiffer was released, so there's no one left in jail. There's still, as far as I know, one subpoena left out there, and that person has not been called before the grand jury. But the real update for this week, Mike, is that our police chief, John Diaz, has resigned.
Wow, what happened?
Well, it's all of this controversy amidst there was an 18-month Department of Justice investigation into the Seattle Police Department investigating excessive use of force.
Sure.
Which the DOJ pretty much concluded from their report it was a practice and policy of the Seattle Police. Here they got in trouble for pepper spraying an 85-year-old woman, Darlie Rainey, during the Occupy demonstration. Wow. But the other issue was that there was a report, an independent report that was just released. It was written by the former deputy assistant police chief of Los Angeles, and it was a very scathing criticism of the Seattle Police Department and their activities last May Day, saying that basically they failed to practice adequate crowd control, that they hadn't been trained in new crowd control techniques since the World Trade Organization demonstrations here in 1999, and that there were conflicting orders about how they were supposed to deal with the protesters. So this week, after about a year and a half, 2 years of demands by civil rights groups and activists in Seattle, the police chief has resigned.
So and that's a big story.
Year, 36 people were arrested inside the mayor's office during a sit-in demanding his resignation. So this is, it's made some folks in Seattle who want police reforms a little bit happier because they feel like they need a new face behind the department. But as of this week, John Diaz is no longer our police chief. On Monday, he resigned.
All right, well, look, Mark,
on that story.
That just goes to show you, though, that activism works, that if you're persistent and you believe in your cause and you keep putting that pressure on slowly but surely, you could achieve your endpoint, which in this case is, you wanted the police chief to resign. So thank you very much for that update, Mark.
No problem, and I also wanted to let folks know it was 36 different civil rights and community groups that called for the U.S. Department of Justice investigation, so it has been a community effort for sure.
Absolutely. That's the way it's supposed to work. All right, listen, I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Mike.